also would like to thank the Muse, who shows up in unexpected ways. When my husband and I flew out here from Los Angeles a few days ago, landed in Heathrow, we were on the red-eye flight, really groggy, got our bags, and we're going through the usual customs, and customs official, a very fierce, blue-eyed, gray-haired man with a tremor, called us over and asked that question, you know, what is your purpose? What is the purpose of your visit? And I said, we're going to the Cork International Poetry Festival. And it sort of took him aback a little bit, and he said, oh, we need more poetry in the world. He goes, you know, I'm committing Shakespeare to memory. He goes, not the sonnets, but some of the speeches. And I thought for a moment he would launch into one, and I'm sorry now that I didn't ask him to. But at that moment, then he stamped our passports, and we carried on. But not too long after that, I thought, oh, poetry is a customs official who gains us entry to another land. So thank you to the Muse showing up as a customs official. And now go on to other gods. I was really happy to hear Katie say that she asked the children to include an insect in her exercise, since I have a special affinity for them, as you'll hear. Okay, this one is called The Scent. Every morning, the sun strings black and gold beads beyond my north window. Bees rise to scent, then descend to the high and earthenware dome beneath the mock orange. They bored away into the hollow sculpture 3 years ago, though I hadn't called the beekeeper yet. She warned me before when they hived in the crawl space, under the house, then the fuse box. You can't tell killer from ordinary unless they attack. You have to destroy them, but still I neglect to call her. I'm fond of their constancy. Stir at dawn, zoom to the flowers or resinous trees, then all rejoin the hive at night. Early one morning I stood, empty-headed, too near the hive, staring up at a hawk in the tree. 2 or 3 bees pelted my cheek but didn't sting, simply rapped a warning. Once at night, under a sickle moon, after chucking rinds from a pail to the compost, I put my hand on the quiet clay hive and found it humming within, deep string, endlessly plucked in the dark. A friend sent me a postcard from Crete, an ancient bronze seal, 2 bees clasping a drop of honey between them. 3,000-year-old hives were found in the Middle East. Last month, a lush swarm hung like a scarf of small golden coins from a green limb in my garden. Rare ornament, a Minoan queen might have draped across her fragrant breast. Or perhaps an offering, a steadfast friend might have arranged on the queen's cold body after an unexpected death, as I would have done for my friend who died last month. Adorned her with pendant bees to sweeten her passage. Yet within a few days, she was bone char and ash. We assume that our friends will walk alongside us forever. But solace is not found in words of comfort. We must live for every drop. The heart may be a hive after all, hidden, honeycombed, and humming. The soul a sting, or sticky garment of light or dusky bee, escaping the lips, weighing no more than a single mock orange bud. The mind may be a brief scent in a faraway field beyond the city, calling us to glean wild nectar so that we might taste both worlds. Moth. Though I search tirelessly through insect handbooks, I can't find it. The moth that flared midday, a lit coal on the path to the summit. I think of fire handlers, walkers, and swallowers, fire starters. I cupped it in my hands to show my companions the red smolder of front wings that leapt to yellow on hind wings. When I opened my hands, the moth didn't fumble away, but remained fanning its small flame from the plump ochre wick of its powdery body, tip-tapping its legs across the grooved fate in my palm. What salt text did it divine? Here is a lifeline by Fitz and Starts, a woman who sleeps with mountains, with bees, holy musters of sweet buck and nectar. 5 fire ants will make all the difference, and then she'll flee her burning house by means of orange spurts of kindling under a Heraclitian sun. What salt text did it divine? The whole world, then, and its combustible nature, the soul and its blood fuse, the 1,000 hidden match tips of death's conflagration waiting in the dry punk of the heart or bedded in the oily folds of the brain until the right nerve ignites. And moth, spun by a gust, it careened into the twisted manzanita and fell, snuffed by blue shadows. All day, I hoarded my wing-dusted hands like a thief, determined not to lose a single blistering grain of light. But I have at times. I'll do my best. Fireflies. This is in 3 parts. 1. Once I saw fireflies in the Mexican valley, dark as ink. My friend's voice flickers, a cool jar of light, 30 years after she rode the Mexicali Ciudad de Mexico train. The night sky mirrored their sparks with stars. Above the train that I also rode decades ago, my face pressed to the jostling window. Stars enough to cast the train's shadow rushing blackly beside us like water, knuckling over stones, scrub, and the glint of small creatures' eyes that watched us go by. We were spectral and inconsequential on this earth. 2. My sister once led me to a hedgerow studded with pale green fireflies. The night I couldn't tell harsh words from sorrowful holes punched in the black tin sky. She called them luchole, a word I spoke over and over, luchole, while children in an Umbrian chapel nearby sang glories to a faraway God and his brown clay son. Yet, there were other gods who didn't share our form and tattooed their devotions, all sex and lumen, on the dense June air, while my sister and I could only weep. 3. Once I spent the night at the river's edge among fireflies. In darkness so deep, I couldn't find myself, couldn't even grope the way. I knelt to the earthen floor, littered with crisp wings. When everything stops, you can only scratch the dirt. And when I touched a smooth, round thing, it was just the knob of a bone near the door to the underground palace. Though later, awaking in daylight, I briefly saw the outline of hinges, a door jamb fading in the ceiling of leaves above me. Someday, perhaps, she will shine her green lanterns again. Orb weaver. Outside my fog-dampened window, the spider sets the spokes of her wheel, turns the axis of my attention as I scan the screen of light. She draws silk outward, a guy line, a thought to fasten on jacaranda leaves. Her work, invisible like mine, tenders a resonant thread from the deep of her belly. She writes the philosophy of hunger mid-air, elegant, practical, and sacred. She is my valve between worlds, my mentor of manifold vision, The spider tugs each line to test it. I'm pulled in, want to see the whole thing beginning to end. She spirals from outside in, tapping spinnerets to each spoke as she passes, attaching the strand. Spider silk tests stronger than cabled steel, according to research on bulletproof vests. What better way to halt the trajectory of despair than this sticky net? Orb weavers each leave a mark uniquely their own in the web. I watch for the singular flaw that is hers as I pivot around the ceaseless want that lives at the center of things. The title of this next poem is a Latin species name. Sheila-Na-Gig Editions, otherwise known as the Dobson fly, flew to our failing lamp before the hunchback moon could draw him away. His crisp cellophane wings crossed as he staggered up and down the table, snookered by sputtering candlelight. A formidable drunk, 3 inches long, with segmented antennae and wangly mandibles half the length of his body. Predacious, but not upon us. The ancient creature clamped other insects that bumbled to the lamp, while we sipped wine and plucked apart fried trout cooked that morning when silvery fish blundered toward woozy sun. One must always treat the god in disguise as a guest at one's table, so we let him stay, though skanky. Later I read that he is the most primitive of all insects that lumbers through metamorphosis. Even the gods shift around, enacting their monstrous hungers. Even now they maul our days. Thanks be to rapacity, then, to end of summer and fish, to all the clumsy appetites we can't untangle from our prayers. Okay. Forgotten. Sometimes I'm unaccountably urged to light, as when I clean out a closet and all the stagnant grief accrued in things is flung away and freed. I'm cleaner as if washed, sponged by a bristly grandmama of all the clay that caked my thoughts. My little death's transparent. I'm not even speaking of the final one yet, but all the others, the whole succession of sheddings that make up a life. My friend Mary Ellen said, "You have at least 20 more years to shape your life." She being 72, 20 years older than me, if I'm lucky, I say. Mary Ellen now gone as I revise this poem. There is a harsh reduction to learn in one's life. All those carnivorous years, my family lineage of madness and disappearance. Is it possible that now I'm weightless as a leaf doubled at the edge of a pond? That's today. Tomorrow may be a different poem, silted with qualms and suffocating algae, or stirred by a blunt dragonfly naiad that lives underwater for years, scours the pond for food, then one day crawls out on a reed and sheds herself to find new faceted eyes and red-veined wings stiffly uncurling from her center, though that's nothing compared to the cracking mid-air coupling with a swank mate. Then the quick eggs she'll drop in the pond, tiny descendants that fall into fish mouths or whisking naiad mandibles, or simply land plop in the fertile muck. Surely this is consolation. We'll all be forgotten, subsumed, all the fine particulars, all the brouhaha. Consolation of consumption, solids of mud. We're not as important as we thought we were. What a relief among the infinite reeds that whisper, hush, hush.